mafia, you okay, bless. I'm a treaty person with the assistant Washington, Dakota. I got deeds to restricted Indian lands. That's how it's written out on paper. But I come here today to be amongst my people. The 7 sacred rites, the pipe is what I know. And I was born in 70, not very long ago compared to someone. But today, in my lifetime, natural law. Sun comes up, sun goes down, like you were saying, the natural law of those 7 sacred rites. In mortuary, we study this. Ears, nose, eyes, mouth. We cosmetize because that's what people look at in the viewing. It's a healing in the viewing. But in a society, those Washitus, they teach that. You can, one of the first things they teach you can tell a nation by how they treat their dead. Well, how do we treat our dead? We don't. We don't have a nation. That's why we're here. We're trying to form that nation. And I hear blood quantum. Well, that's a pedigree. That's when you're dealing out chickens and cows. And what they recognize by law is heritage. Father to son to grandfather. That's what they recognize. But but some of the things that are going on, that's what mortuary laws are. I had a lot of questions. A lot of the families. One of the books that they have us study is types of funeral services and ceremonies. You look at, you're talking about the man has a right to live. The man has a right, he's going to die too. But he has funeral rites. On this is a Protestant funeral rite, first page. The 53rd page is a Orthodox funeral rite, Jewish funeral rite, Roman Catholic funeral rite, Mormon funeral rite, military funeral rite, and they have fraternal organizations. At the bottom, 81 and 84 on this book, we had to learn the Buddhist funeral rite and the Japanese death ritual. Nowhere on here in the North American continent, you figured it'd be Dakota funeral rite. There's none. So then you go back to reservations. Well, what is it reserved for? Who is it reserved for? Like your motel room reserve. Well, us and the people who came here. It's reserved for their use. In Minneapolis, some of our children or relatives live there, looking for a way. They go all over looking for a way of life. They find some of them are born there, and some of them die there. They want to be buried there. Well, Hillside Cemetery, some of those places charge $22, $25, $1,500 just to bury. A cemetery says how and what is going to happen in their cemetery, because they own that property, they care for that property. On our reservations, how did these little cemeteries get that exclusive right to bury our dead? It happens all the time. Death, just like life. Well, rights violation, when you're talking human rights violation, don't we have a right to take care of our own in death? Who does? What were our funeral directors 150 years ago, from the beginning of time up until 150 years ago? How and who did we take care of our dead? When I can gather, we didn't have the little cemetery on the reservation that are filling in. We had, like you were saying, from East Coast to West Coast to bury our dead. The different rituals to bury our dead. Well, under mortuary law, this is the book that we go by. T. Scott Gillian, Thomas F.H. Stew. But I wanted to hand out, under natural law, these are man-made laws. You can change man-made laws, but you can't change natural law. Mm-hmm. If I fell over right here, natural law, things are going to happen. You need to be careful if you want to pass things around. Human rights, you have that right to bury. Well, on those 7 sacred rights, they got the Onaga Yuhak.
You know, today, the government is trying to take the church law away from us now. What's going to happen when he does that?
So, when we have a constitution, or when we say we're a people, one of my professors said, well, that's all hearsay, unless we recognize written, because we can enforce written. Well, I don't know, that's something that really made me think.
Maybe it's time that cremate is going to really go within.
It is. Yeah, I'm certified to cremate. That's why everything's, by 2015, 60% is supposed to be all cremations. You could have final viewing, just like in a casket, and then cremation afterwards. At least that's what we were taught in school. And it is. The funeral home I work for, we recently built a crematory. Otherwise, we used to send our people for cremation up to St. Cloud, Minnesota. But we built our own because the need is there.
How long you want it on? To finish him up, he's talking good stuff. Okay.
The federal laws that say you have a right to religion and culture. Well, what is that, religion and culture? You got a whole bunch of people saying, this is how we do it, that's how we do it. Everybody's getting confused. So then they're out there, they bury eagle feathers in the casket. Some say, well, that's not, you don't do that. Well, who's to say? Who's the official? When you go to the churches, they got the, if you try to go and do a sermon for the Pope on Sunday over in Rome, what are those religion going to tell you to do? They're going to not allow you to do a sermon, because you got to earn that right to do that sermon. You got to earn that right by study how you live your life. So that was very interesting. Like I said, I was a 4 years helper with the Sundance 4-year commitment, a young person. Then I was a Sundancer for 4 years. Then I led the Sundance for 4 years. And then I helped another community with the Sundance for 4 years. But at age 9 years old, I had to help my father, because all those family headsmen, they want to wave that eagle feather. They want it to be all the attention, the medicine person. Mine is that way. They all fell. But they told my father to keep going. because that commitment's not between you and the men only, it's between you and the treasurer, what you have to do. Oh, like I said, I didn't grow up in the 1800s. I didn't grow up past, beyond, earlier than 1970. I was born then. Now you know my age.
Before the Pilgrims came here, when a grandma, grandpa is 90 years old, whatever, and cannot help in the family anymore, then they get up and whatever they're going to carry, then they walk away. And they know what's going to happen. Grandma is going to die over here. Leave her alone. Leave grandpa alone. He's no good no more, so he can't help, so he's going to die. And they let him go, and they die someplace.
Can I say something? I buried a lot of relatives, and I buried a lot of friends, and I buried a lot of other people. The beginning of the day, the Wakantan God create the Makah of all kinds, a life and a death. So I put them back on the ground. The body is belongs to the ground. The word Yawakan belongs to up here. And Anahi is God made our Wichanahi Unaye. And our Shishu said, there is a heaven. But to me, I don't think there's no such heaven. We live on heaven. Joy. Yokpia Echata word. We live here. So I bury a lot of dead people my own, in a traditional way. And let me share a story with you. Just like I mentioned, Garfield and Buzzy. 1991, we went to Baghdad. We follow the process. The State's attorney, the United States Embassy, we went there. Then we went into the Iraqi embassies. Then we talk about nations. We don't talk about government. We don't talk about BIA. We don't talk about federal government. They talk about the prophecies. And the prophecy said, there is going to be a war in the Middle East. Wherever it says crossroad, that's where it's going to be war. And he said, be a lot of dead people. Everything they got, whatever they got, machine guns, guns, and whatever. They're going to use everything. They're going to fight hand-to-hand combat, and the human blood will flow into the Red Sea, he said. But today, the Red Sea, it's narrow, he said. But it used to be a big river, but now it's narrow, he said. The human blood will flow into the Red Sea. Then, let me back up again a little bit. Before that, he said, we used to be a tribe, but the God washes the water with the universe. And after that happened, the nations are identify each other. There's 10 nations, he said. 7 nations identify each other. 3 of them are still gone, said. And 1 nation identifies. Another nation identifies. That's 9, he said. But 1 nation is still gone. We don't know. So after we talk about prophecies, and when those happen, the Red Sea, the human blood will be flowing into the Red Sea. And then people will be just killing themselves, the army, all that. And he said, look at your skin. And look at my skin. You're my brother. Sisters and brothers. We're sisters and brothers. And who's going to bury the dead? You guys are the 10th tribe. The Lakota nation will bury the dead, he said.
they got a ride that goes for the 38 that we're on. My little brother, his name's Tianonich. Jealously rides his house. My family, we fought in that time. We're still fighting. This here too, I wanted to hand out. Not to, you're all adults here, so. I got permission from the family to share this photo with you. It's a documented number on there from the Minnesota State Historical Society. What you're looking at is Little Crow Scout. How did I forget that? Why am I bringing this up? It's not a good thing. Well, who's taking care of our dead right now? What are they doing to it? This was a picture from back then. What are they doing today? You ever hear of medical tissue donation? They take your cornea, heart valves, your long bones, marrow. Before I left Chicago, they passed a law where those people who are unclaimed, and there really is people that are unclaimed, like you said. In the city of Chicago, the morgue there is over 200 and more, and it's still, even around the walls, it's still, people can't pay for a funeral.
If you want to
They
sit
know
down,
that
go ahead.
the state or the county or the government has monies to bury them. If they don't claim their loved ones, they know they'll get a decent burial. Because they don't have $5 to buy themselves a sandwich. They're living on the streets or whatever have you.
You can go ahead and turn it off in a little bit.
So, to help cover the costs, they're gonna take some of these items that they can use for medical, like if somebody gets burned, you can save a life with that. Take a kidney, you can save a life with that. To help cover some of the costs. Well, that's where we come to. And it just ain't our people, it's all peoples. Like you see there, all peoples. All racism, man. Well, in talking here, what I learned from the 7 sacred rites is about 6 families is going to experience a death in 4 years' time. One family out of those 6 is going to experience making a relative. They're going to experience having to go on the hill. They're going to experience becoming of age. Those are natural laws. Well, you don't have that for our people on the reservations, suicide. Those kind of things happen. They don't have to be a foreign power hanging 38 of us over in Mankato. We do it ourselves. That's how it is. And not only by that means, there's other means. How we buried our dead. We never had car accidents. We never had the diseases we have to. When we prepare a body, we have to prepare it according to what has happened to the physical tissue. There again, natural law. The whole purpose of a viewing is to confirm the death of your loved one so you can start healing physically and spiritually. A lot of people in our ceremonies will take their hair. Well, why are they taking their hair? What is that? Well, the very moment, I'm a medic too. I've been serving since '97. I'm still active medic. Oh, what happens at the moment of death? Some of the signs you look for is your eyes glass. They're no longer shining. They're sheen to them. something happens to them or it's dull. And the process continues on and on. And it's real. It's in all our communities. But not only our people, all peoples of this country are experiencing this too. And, yeah. But I wanted to share that with you. And I wanted to thank you. Caramba.
No.
Estou de machi. Watch it. Watch
Finished.
I had a question for him.
Okay,
Before he goes.
okay, answer your question before we leave.
No, just hold on to that, I just have a question. Relative, I just had a question and that's important. This year, December, well, just last few months, December 10th, I had a friend in Reno, Nevada, who died on November 23rd. He sat in the mortuary until December the 10th, when they told me almost a whole month he was in the mortuary. He had died of alcoholism, and he was listed as a John Doe. And nobody didn't want his body. And he was a San Carlos Indian. And everything that this gentleman here, he's saying is true. If we don't watch our children, and they're in another city, or are you elders who have kids that are young like us, who have a drinking problem, if something happened to you and your kids die in the city, they are listed as a John Doe. And as a John Doe, they will cremate them. And they'll put them in a little box and they'll forget them. It's hard to send a John Doe home. And the tribe, it takes about 7 days if you have a good law advocate or a private attorney general or a lawyer to get that man or young man or woman back. I wanted you to ask you, why is it hard for our people to come home under those conditions? That's all I had to ask. Please explain that as to why this young man was listed as a John Doe when he was officially. Oh, another thing about this John Doe, his name was Cody Peden. He was adopted when he was a baby, and he was taken off the Indian reservation. And when he died, none of his friends wanted him. Not his stepdad, not his stepmom, his adopted brothers and sisters. And because his friends weren't relatives, they couldn't stand up for him. And because they did not know where he was from, those are the John Does that don't make it back here. So I was wondering if you can help us to help our children to come home, because even though they're sent outward, they belong with us. Thank you.
Every case is different. Confidentiality, private matters go into those. There's no reason why that should be that way. They have a law where if you're digging a road to build a building like this building here, or if they're digging an interstate through a new roadway, in the United States, they have to stop when they find bones. They're Indian bones. Oh, Indian bones. Well, we'll notify all the reservations in that area, reserves in that area. See if they want to claim these remains. Well, in the federal, or in this law book, is a quasi-property law. That's what they use to identify. When you get bones back from the museum, that's the law they're using to identify those people so they can return those remains. They're not property, like you own something property, but it's property, quasi-property, not property in the real sense. A lot of them have, they say, well, jurisdiction issues. We need laws like the Indian Child Welfare Act laws. It crosses all jurisdictions to get the children back to the reservation. Those kind of laws need to be in place or enforced, or is there, what would be our natural law, bloodline or heritage? If we can identify the bloodline to that person, like you were saying, you can identify the bloodline. Well, by our traditional beliefs, we don't let our relatives get that far. Why are our relatives, why do we let them get that far? If we want to put it in law, which would be good, then we can follow that. But until then, like they told me, all you're saying is hearsay, these 7 sacred rites or whatever you're doing. But that's their law. We go by natural law.
I believe what we've covered there, Chief Paul Reed, didn't I get back to what it is. And I believe there's one person here that's very capable of telling us how we buried our dead. Richard here can enlighten us on the method that's used. Richard? Hani toki kuita hoki hone sa tuktona e tunka hone sa brista huita. Na chonka kpaya hone istu.
See, now you should be asked, go on, wa shichu ki hit mo hand, they put them on the ground. Like before time, shawaka le shawapina. Uhuskaki, wa mankashka, na uchasha yeshe. Uhuska, la makoche kedelakan, ihani yakaka. Wa shichu mo hand, they put them on the ground.
Yeah, that's what we study. The quickest way in nature for a body to go back is that.
I remembered something when you were talking about this law. Washichus now they make things up, or they take something and they twist it, to shoot them. And now this burial, it's not a good thing to say, but that's money for them to do that. And I go, I can't show you right now, but I'll just say it. In the Bible isn't written in, wasn't, the Washichus have nothing to do with the Bible, other than it was translated into English. But when they translated it, I mentioned that yesterday. My uncle can talk all day in Dakota, but if the people on the other end don't understand, how are they going to know what he's saying? The Washichus, they're going to take his words and they're going to translate it word for word. We went up to the Wounded Cemetery yesterday. You see those names on that memorial. Those names, they don't mean anything in English. They don't mean anything. They were given those names for a reason, So Washichus, that's what they do. In the Bible, a few years ago, my daughter came home from school. She's happy, my girl. She's 20 years old now, but back then she was 6 years old, and she was sitting on the couch and she She had a sad face. What's wrong, my girl? I'm sad. Why are you sad? I don't want my mommy and daddy to go to hell, she said. Who told you that? Of course she said that. It took me back to when I was a little kid. I grew up in that, you know, this, well, back then they called themselves Christians. Just like the way the Washichus have contaminated everything. And I said they contaminated that Bible. This burial, with the Washichu, the reason why Washichus bury the bodies is because in the Bible it says a seed, in order for a seed to germinate, it has to die. You plant it. That's why the Washichus bury dead bodies. You know, if you're going to grow a potato, that seed has to die first before it germinates and then turns into a plant again. All the plants are like that. Washichus, that's what they did, because in the Bible it says that the body has to die in order for it to go to heaven. That's what Washichus did. So I just wanted to say that. There's no, like, natural law is natural law. Washichus make up their own thing all the time.
No, I just wanted to share that when these white brothers started fighting, they desecrated this land during the Civil War. They killed each other. Then they came out here, militarily, they had a bigger force. Start fighting us. But during that time, the women, they wanted their sons and husbands and relatives back. So they started embalming. They embalmed them and then they sent them back.
That's what I studied, yes.
So that's what this embalmment starts now. When we have our wakes, 4 days, honey, some of them will come out. Their heart might have stopped, they're still alive, so you wait and watch, and they come back to life, or maybe not. They even said they have claw marks, moving graves. So I had a question, because that's where embalmment comes now, where it's just like a routine, you don't think about it. You have the ceremonies for the healing. And there's about the turn of the century, written history, there's all from around here, Oglala, all these medicine men, Wakawi Chashas, Wapia Wichasha, Pejuta Wichasha, they let a white guy in, and they showed him some things. He wrote them down. How they spoke it, he wrote it down, tried to. What I've seen once is, they said a bone keeper. And I don't know if that's a family, until I had taught. Matioshba taught. That's their loved ones. So after they go back the natural way, when they turn into the skeleton, then they go and get that skeleton. And they paint that skeleton, and then they said it. So I don't know. That's the turn of the 19th century, 1900. That time with that oral history, they wrote it down. But all they mention is bone keepers. They never explained the duties. But those men that were telling that, they probably knew the duties. They found a woman, and then the Corps of Engineers, there's a lot of this, what they did to the rivers, a lot of buffalo skulls, old, ancient buffalo skulls came out, a whole bunch of them. They took them to Rapid. So our preservation office, Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, trying to say, oh wait, hold on. It said there's science coming from the Mother Earth. So this woman that they found up there's a farmer. This is south of Lemon. It's the other side of Fate. And our Thipple went over there. They treated like like a crime scene. They had the coroner and the sheriff out there. And the farmer, since it's treaty land, you know, but since he was gonna plow his field, but he had a tractor out there and he fixed it up. He made it a grave, put a fence around it so, you know, it won't be disturbed. That's how they treated that you know, under NAGPRA and that Walter Echo Hawk. He wrote a book called The 10 Worst Cases, Legal Cases, and he's one that drafted that Native American grave patriarch. You know, that's why we get those bones back from Smithsonian Institute, like that. So there's something more to that, but what I'm afraid of, I'm 55 now, and I'm afraid that my generation, or not Lakota, when these elders go, like my dad, Lakota Ruli, and there's gonna be no more Lakota. That bothers me, because I see all these young people in the struggle just to live, you know, found young families, the hardships, and we're so detached from the Mother Earth. But right now, there's science coming from Mother Earth that we need to heed. There's buffalo effigies from this side all the way up to Dakota. Buffalo effigies. They mentioned 10 minutes. We've seen those. So there's a lot of these things coming out with a lot of meaning behind it. It proves, it's like a document that proves that this land belongs to us. It's indisputable. But federal agencies, like Bureau of Land Management, they issue oil and gas permits. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, they issue uranium permits. And these guys are digging. And like the Corps of Engineers at the water permit. These guys have to consult with, you know, right now it's IRA or whoever. They have to consult when they find these things. So I'm just mentioning what our Thipo did up there by Lemon, you know, that farmer, they reburied that. Is a win. She was like this. Her top of her head was starting to show. So they reburied her. That's how they dealt with it now. You know, so the coroner, crime scene, you know, and then they wait for the tribes to come in. You know, that landowner did that, made a grave and fenced it off. So there's something about bone keepers. Lakota, that knowledge might be extinct now, unless one of these elders have it. And that's where I'm coming from with what I'm doing. I don't want our people to be extinct. We might be high extinct, but we might not be who we really are. That's why I say artificial or fraudulent Indian. You know, we got to be really who we are. And I know we're spiritual beings. I know exactly what you say. I know that because that's how até mental hecha se. Woman spectator hecha slow. Oh, no.
My name is Lorena, and my question to you was, you said that it's got to be written how to bury people so that there will be clarity to the white man who has this government. It's like we have to get with the government on their paperwork all the time. So that was my question. And then, sorry. And then to move on from there, each and every reservation has a THPO now. So if we don't have it written, it's the responsibility of the THPO to get together and write this for us and maybe amend what? NAPRA law, NEPA law, come up with a law ourselves or what?
When you talk about unity, all men of the earth came here. This is what the men of the earth understand, or what they've come up with. Natural law is going to do what natural law is going to do, whether you write it or not, to answer your questions.
Okay.
Like I said, the first 4 hours, I had that question up on when I was Hombrecha. A bright light came from beyond the stars, and a buzzing noise. Come down. And what I learned was natural law, the things we're talking about will never go away. It's always been here and will always be here. You look at Mother Earth, like you're saying, there's people, well, we got to defend against pollution. We got to defend against, the environment. Well, if you look at Mother Earth, you see the hills, how high she can really flood, not these little streams. When she decides she has enough, or she decides she's going to flood back up to those hills or have a drought, she'll do that. You can't control that. You can't control what time the sun comes up. By the Sundance, or Wainwachi, they said the woman come out of the sun from the east, and you be at attention waiting for that, because it doesn't wait for you when that sun comes up. So learning that, I heard things on time, be here, and like that. Well, when you get to the cities, as far as burials go, and you have spiritual leaders saying, well, we're running on spiritual time. Well, it's costing these families an extra $500 every half hour you're going over. That spiritual leader doesn't have to pay that extra $500. Then they're going to collection agencies, and then they're doing, so they need to know, the men that are here, the law that's here. No, you don't have to write anything. Natural law is going to take its course.
Okay, I have another thing to tell you guys. Tuesday I'll be flying off to Washington DC. I'm gonna spend 5 days over there. Last time when I went to Washington DC, I went to that Smithsonian Institute, and I did a presentation in front of all the curators. Made friends with the lead curator, so she took me down into a repository, and she wanted me to identify a headdress that was supposedly belonged to Crazy Horse. She had me identify stuff that belonged to Sitting Bull, and thank goodness to the new technology, I was able to have a camera in there, and with our holy man, Ricky Graygrass, we said no to everything that they said was Crazy Horse. We said no to everything what was Sitting Bull, and I would just like to make this a note that I have made friends with the lead curator, and it takes you 6 months to gain entrance down into that repository. But it just took me a matter of a few minutes to get down in there. And I do carry a good message for our people. I'm a very proud Lakota woman, and I've infiltrated the Smithsonian Institute. It's an elite institute of the world, and they do not have Plains cultures in there. They just have Eastern cultures. It's dominated by that. And now with me in there, we're gonna have the Lakota in there. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's good.
Exactly, and when I get back, I want to encourage you guys to start what Bryce is trying to do. Something on the parks and all of you guys that was happy right now that they're not helping the world out.
All right, we'll take a break for 10 minutes. And anytime like that, I was a drunk.